GM, everybody. How we doing? It's Friday, so I hope it's well. We got a good night's sleep last night. You ready to get after it this morning? Finish this week strong? Guess what? Mama, we made it, right? We had the week from beyond, right? The week from the upside down happens every once in a while where you get big tech earnings, the hugest names in the world reporting alongside Powell and the Federal Open Market Committee making interest rate decisions alongside of a slew of economic data that comes out. It is an absolute whirlwind of craziness and just bombs of volatility left and right. But we made it through, right? Played it light, executed when we needed to execute in terms of short term, stayed out of the chop, stayed out of the low volume, directionless movement. We were able to do some evaluation on these companies as they release their earnings reports and their data and all of that and their guidance and get a beat on where they are, not only in this ongoing AI race and AI war, but just in this kind of economic squeeze that everybody's feeling, right? So there was a lot of information gleaned from this week, a lot of great experience. And that's really what you're focused on, right? You either win or you learn. You're focused on process over profits. If you get the process down, the profits come naturally. If you're focusing on the profits and not the process and the system and the mindset, then you'll find yourself struggling with easily corrected mistakes, right? That's what you want to avoid in markets is just making easy mistakes that you have no business making, right? If you are jonesing to do something, go work out. Go do this, go do that. But don't bring nervous, chaotic energy to the market on a week where it's the worst time to have that, right? The market does not march to your drum beat. It marches to its own. So we have to get on the same beat as the market itself. That is the goal. When we step into markets, I'm trying to get on your rhythm. I'm not trying to force you to mine because that does not work, right? No single person's money is long enough to force the market to march to their drumbeat. So we're trying to get on beat with the market, and I'm happy to say that for the most part this week, we were on beat with markets, right? And we'll see what we have going on for us today. But like I said, hope everybody had a good night's sleep, ready to rock and roll here this morning. Like the shirt says, eat, sleep, Kaizen, repeat. Go on an ongoing cycle of greatness, right? An unstoppable cycle of getting 1% better each and every day. And today is another notch in the belt toward that goal. So let's lock into what we got going on this morning. I got stuff to get to, so we will make this quick. Yeah, pretty short newsletter. Nice, nice. We can get into the juicy stuff in the group. So our top news, job market resilience. The domestic labor market remains tight with April's non-farm payrolls report expected to show that more than 200,000 jobs were added to the U.S. economy for the fourth straight month. The unemployment rate is also forecast to remain at 3.8%, resulting in a 27th consecutive month that joblessness has stayed under 4% and marking the longest such stretch since the 1960s. It's a peculiar dynamic as interest rates have remained relatively high over much of the past 2 years, and conventional thinking suggested that this would have some dent in the job market by now. So are rates high enough? Jay Powell said that they are and has telegraphed that the Fed's next move will be down and not up. That's despite inflation remaining sticky around the 3% level and persistent price pressures in the first quarter of the year. Those forces have also led many investors to consider wage growth to be the most important indicator in today's NFP report, which will be released at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, so 20 minutes ago. Average hourly earnings likely rose 0.3% month over month in April, unchanged from March. On a year-over-year basis, a 4% increase is expected, compared with 4.1% in the previous month. But higher than expected wage increases may fan the fears of resurgent inflation. The labor force participation rate, which measures the share of working age population employees of working age population employed or seeking employment, is also anticipated to stay unchanged at 62.7%. So in terms of commentary here, Seeking Alpha analyst Demir Tokic will be focusing on changes in temporary jobs, which is a leading indicator of a recession, as well as declines in full-time jobs and increases in part-time ones. A rise in immigration is one reason why the U.S. economy may not be in a recession now, while excess savings from COVID, although largely depleted, may also still be playing a part. Yeah, I'd say that at this point, with the average American family spending an extra, between $400 and $1,500 per month over the course of the past 18 months, yeah, I'd say anything that you had saved up from COVID is probably depleted. Quote, thus, in my view, these variables have provided only a temporary boost to the economy, he writes, explaining what effects those might have on the stock market. So I'm not like a big person to give a lot of credence to non-farm payrolls data and the non-farm payrolls report. So I feel like after all of the data that we got this week, that's not the one that I would put the most stock in. So I'm going to shift our attention here to tech news record buyback. Here we go. Apple with the smoke screen. Let's do it. Apple shares jumped 6% after hours to $183.46 per share on Thursday, as the tech giant's Q2 results were better than expected despite iPhone fears in China. Sales weakness was also seen in categories including the iPad, Mac, and wearables, but investors cheered its updated capital return plan that added a record $110 billion to its buyback program and raised its quarterly dividend by 4% to 25 cents per share. Quote, we view Apple's continued employment of generous share buybacks as a critical tool for the stock in weathering the near-term headwinds facing its underlying fundamental outlook. So what they're basically saying is we've got a crap ton of cash, and it doesn't matter if sales weakness showed in iPhones, iPad, Mac, and wearables, which is pretty much everything, right? The only thing that led the way for Apple's growth was the services division, and it has for a while. It's like Apple services and then AWS, Amazon's AWS cloud services, right? Those are the things that are the drivers behind these companies in terms of growth. So services did well, but everything else faltered. Phones, iPads, Mac, wearables. So that's significant. Normally, any other time, this is crushing news. But Apple's like, hey, guess what? You know what we got in the back pocket? A ton of cash, more free cash flow than some small countries, right? Than a number of countries one company is in control of. So they're like, yeah, you might not like this news, but you will like the fact that we're driving up our own stock by buying $110 billion of it, and we're going to increase the dividend, right? The revenue that you get from holding our stock by 4% to 25 cents per share, right? So for every share that you own, you get 25 cents in dividends from Apple. So, good news for Warren Buffett, who owns like a bajillion shares, right? It's only, I feel like dividend money is great when you have like a bunch of shares, because then you just get that revenue coming in. But yeah, I mean, it's news that is kind of serving your dog the medicine wrapped in cheese or the medicine wrapped in peanut butter. I don't know how we move upon open based off of that news, because none of it was good, but we are up, right? None of the news from earnings was good, but we're up, right? So we just have to play it. We know that, Apple typically will get some type of pop after earnings. It doesn't mean that it's got to be a big pop. It could last 5 minutes, right? Could last 5 minutes. We went over, Apple's post earnings movement last night on the live Q&A. It got more of a sustained pop last earnings, but that doesn't mean that we get that each and every time, right? But what you can typically count on is, within that first 5-10 minutes of open, Apple sometimes dips a bit. When I say a bit, I mean like on those first few minute candles, right? And then typically some type of reversal candle and push, and we at least get one big, strong 5 minute candle for a nice scalp, meaning in and out, right? And then sometimes we can get some continuation. So I was hoping that Apple would stay down actually around this 182.42 area, then do a little peak below and fail, and we could day trade it from 182.60 area, 182.94, basically 183, from 183 to 186.65. But we're like already testing that 186.65 overnight high, pretty much at open. So, we'll see what we end up getting from that. But if we can get some sustained movement from Apple, that would be nice. Hopefully, just no double top action, because that also could happen. If you check on 5 minute, 15 minute, right, we get into this 186 area. We put in some shooting stars. We did that last time. Let's see what we end up getting this time. But typically that Friday after Apple earnings, you can get at least a quick scalpy scalp from them. But it's just, I feel like the continuation of this push is something that I need to see, right? I need to see it in order to be like, okay, cool. I'm back in. I'm down with Apple, because Apple has a beautiful falling wedge that it's just been in and been trying to get out. It's tried to bust out and gotten sucked back in. So them kind of serving this golden covered turd, for lack of better terms, for earnings, doesn't inspire a whole lot of confidence for like continuation to the upside. It's kind of like, hey, everything was bad, but we're buying a ton of our stock. That doesn't necessarily mean that the stock is going to rocket upward. So, don't take that immediate knee jerk reaction post earnings as what we're going to see in terms of continuation, because that's not the case at all. We're not guaranteed to continue up. If we do, awesome, right? That's great. But if not, it would not be super surprising, especially given where the broader market is here today, right? And we're on QQQ retesting that rejection area for this big daily bear flag. We're literally opening right underneath it, right on QQQ at 433. Let me remove this drawing. 433.62, right? So we popped up, likely on the non-farm payroll data or whatever data we got at 8:30, right? Market popped up right to this resistance area. So if Apple opens up and starts to drop, SPY also popped up to right underneath 512.40. It's like 511.51. That resistance area is 512.40 for SPY. So we could have, we have Apple opening up higher off of news that's like all bad except for the buybacks. And then we've got SPY QQQ opening like right at daily bear flag resistances. So the elements are there for there to be some rug pulling, right? The elements are there. The price action will tell the final tale, but the elements are definitely there for rug pulling. In terms of consumer news, gamblification. Dave & Buster's, ticker plays, unveiled plans to let customers 18 and older bet on arcade games. I saw this, and this took me out. This cracked me up. But the move has raised concerns over potential addiction risks among youth. Yeah, there's already addiction risks among adults with FanDuel. It's been a big problem, FanDuel, DraftKings. DNB will integrate Lubra's gamification software into its app, which allows loyalty members to bet $5 to $10 on arcade games such as skee ball and hot shots. I'm not gonna lie, like I'm down for this, and maybe I'd love to get like we should get like a little get some group together and hit Dave and Buster's. And I might not. I'm horrible at skee ball, you guys, but air hockey. Wayne Gretzky on the air hockey table. Wayne Gretzky. I'm telling you, I'm locked in. What I do well. What I don't do, I prefer to outsource. So I don't know how to do skee ball. I don't know how to do a lot of those things. But see me on the air hockey table, right? And it's a different thing. We had a little air hockey table in the basement growing up, and Jonathan and I used to put in hours on that thing. So if you think you're nice enough to see me, let me know in the comments. But otherwise, I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna take that silence as compliance and just go ahead and continue to crown myself the air hockey champion. But other than that, yeah, I wouldn't be betting on Dave and Buster's games. In terms of kind of justification and whatnot, providing social gambling at youth-oriented locations like Dave and Buster's raises concerns about youth exposure to and participation in gambling, declared Keith White, executive director of the National Council on Problem Gambling. Yeah, I mean, it kind of is what it is at this point. Can kids 18 years old, like that's how old you have to be on like FanDuel and stuff, right? So yeah, I don't think they're getting any more exposed to it than what they would already be. Right. I mean, it's everywhere. You have commercials nonstop during all these sporting events about FanDuel and DraftKings. So I don't think that they're any more exposed. I think it just does give addicts another place to have an outlet, right? If you were mad that you couldn't go to watch the game that you're betting on because you got to go to your kid's friend's birthday party, well, if it's at Dave and Buster's, maybe you can rake in some cash, swindling kids on arcade games. In terms of merger and acquisition news, another bid, Sony and Apollo Global have reportedly gotten a bit more formal in their approach for Paramount Global via a letter detailing their all-cash $26 billion offer. Paramount shares, which have been volatile as of late, were back in the green following the news. The non-binding offer marks a starting point for more formal talks as the exclusive negotiating window Skydance Media has to discuss its merger proposal expires later today. Skydance had sweetened its bid, offering some concessions to frustrated Paramount shareholders, although there still appears to be a gap between the companies. So negotiations continue. I'm not really involved with this, right? Paramount. I do watch Paramount because they have all of Survivor. So I'm on there watching Survivor, seeing what's up. Bailey got me into that, but other than that, like I'm not, on here playing the acquisition news of Paramount and the pops and drops that follow. I'd rather have a beat on what's going on in the broader market than be trying to keep up with acquisition news and playing ups and downs on that when you're not even awake or allowed to trade a lot of times when that news is going to come out. Today's market's looking mostly green here. In Asia, Japan closed, Hong Kong up 1.5%, China closed, India down 1%. The FTSE in London up 0.4%, Paris up 0.6%, Frankfurt up 0.4%, Dow up 0.8%, S&P up 0.4%, Nasdaq up 0.6%, crude oil up 0.3%, gold down 0.1%, Bitcoin up 1.4% to 59K. If Bitcoin doesn't get back above, where was it? Let me see here. Yeah, if we can't push back above this 61 425 61K 425, we can't push back above that area on Bitcoin, we can continue to go down, right? We need to hold this area. We lost it with pretty decent volume, right? Lost it with pretty decent volume, and now we're retesting it. If we've got potential here for just another daily bear flag on Bitcoin. This could be again within a larger weekly bull flag, 1000%, but I'm just talking about short term price action. If we can get a nice reversal here and get back above that level, then we put in, a nice hammer reversal on the weekly on Bitcoin. Just checking out Bitcoin futures, right? Backslash BTC. We can put in a nice weekly hammer and then Bitcoin start to push from there. But yeah, we need back above the 61 425, 61, yeah, 61 425. So let's see it, right? We got a little pop just now with the non-farm payrolls data, and it's pushing back up to that area. So it's like we've got a lot of things that are pushing back up to areas where we can reject, right? It's either areas where we're going to bust out of potential bearishness, or we're going to confirm it because we got Bitcoin popping back to resistance. We've got SPY popping to resistance. We've got QQQ popping to resistance. So a lot of things popping to resistance right now. Across the board when it comes to trading. Today's economic calendar, we got the NFP data, non-farm payrolls, PMI composite final at 945. That's one of those things where shortly after open, you can see some volatility because of that data. What else is happening? Peloton CEO exits, free cash flow push cuts into R&D. Second Boeing whistleblower dies after 2 weeks in critical condition. At this point, like Boeing is just a cartel, right? Like this is like something out of a movie. Every major whistleblower against this company is dying, is literally dying before their day in court. That is crazy. Vivian said this to me yesterday. I was like, bro, this is unheard of. This is absolutely unhinged. Like, what company is allowed to directly be involved with the deaths of hundreds of people with their plane crashes? You got doors flying off, this, that, and the third, and then these whistleblowers are dying. Right, literally, the people that are coming to testify against this company are dying. This is crazy. Absolutely. At some point, like they're going to make a Netflix special about this, and it's going to go wild. If they get it out, I doubt they're going to get anybody that's going to appear on this special. Because if Boeing gets wind of you appearing on it, you're probably going to end up like this guy. So yeah, absolutely wild here as this Boeing saga continues. Blood and Boeing, right? I feel like we're on the tip of a great name for a documentary. I don't even know. We need one more B for some alliteration. Blood, something, and bone. I don't know. We'll think on it. Coinbase, ticker coin, scores big beat reflecting crypto trading surge. But I don't think that the movement, it's literally opening exactly where it closed yesterday. So just another reinforcement of the craziness of earnings, right? Coin was one that I figured would probably end up beating on earnings because of, the halving, the crypto hype, Bitcoin resurgence. A ton of people, re-downloaded Coinbase and were back active. But that just doesn't always correlate to the stock rocketing. You can have a big beat and open flat. So, maybe we see it push now at open, or maybe we see Coinbase kind of facing those same difficulties that Bitcoin is at this, area that it rejected at. But as of right now on the weekly, Coinbase ain't looking too bad. I mean, we've got a weekly hammer candle that we're putting in here. Let's see. Yeah, got a little weekly hammer, a big old weekly bull flag going on. Let's see, if Bitcoin, again, if Bitcoin can get its act together, put in a hammer on the weekly, I think Coinbase puts in a hammer on the weekly, and then we can start to push from there because we've been bull flagging on declining volume on the weekly on Coinbase. So we'll see, right? I'll drop that info in the group. Block, ticker SQ, issues strong guidance following 2024, following set of Q1 toppers. Block, something that I mentioned a little bit, these payment processors are, kind of seeing a resurgence. They're trying to come back from the dead. PayPal, SQ, right? It's tough when you're battling Apple, but I think they've finally gotten beaten down enough to the point where they're starting to gather some strength. In Square not looking too horrible either. Broke that weekly downtrend. We talked about that. And if we can put in a nice hammer on the weekly on Square can continue to push long term from here as well. So we'll be watching. We'll be watching and keeping an eye out there, seeing what Square can do for us. Block, the artist formerly known as Square. Google allegedly paid Apple $20 billion to be default search engine. Weak diesel market adds to concerns about global oil demand growth. Rivian, ticker RIVN, lands $827 million in funding from Illinois for plant expansion. Big rally for Amgen on weight loss drug updates and guidance. Amgen with the weight loss drugs too. We got another Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk in our hands. Moderna to seek parity for RSV vaccine as rivals lead in market. Moderna, another stock on the brink of a huge breakout. If we can get this week, we close. We talked about that same thing here. 115.81 on Moderna, right? They get hold above that by the end of the week. Moderna can fire off a big old weekly bull flag. Marijuana opposition group raises money to fight cannabis rescheduling. You got better things to do. How about you tend to those? We've got people rotting in jail for something that's legal. I think that's absolutely deplorable. So let's reschedule it, get these people out of jail who shouldn't be in jail, and keep it pushing, right? Everybody be positive, have a great life. But that'll wrap us up. Paul said, "You don't want it." Paul, we got to make it happen now. We got to make it happen. He said, "You don't want it." And no exclamation point, no nothing. That's how you know that Paul has secretly got a killer instinct behind him. It was no emotion, no anything. He just said, "See me. See me, and it's over." Well, look, maybe we can make that happen. But yeah, we'll throw some money on it. I think what's the cap? $10. We can throw $10 on our game and see what happens. Little air hockey tournament. But listen, guys, wouldn't rather end the week off any other way. If you're not already supposed to be in the room with us, right? You're not already reserved your seat for the Kaizen event. Make sure you do that. I'mBetterDaily.com. Have a great weekend. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see y'all on Monday right here, YouTube Premarket Prep session. Have a good one.